Hi, this is Joel Persinger. I'm the Gun Guy. Thank you very much for all of your support on GunGuyTV. I'm very grateful. First of all, I want to apologize to you for this live stream being unscheduled again. You know, we get around the holidays, it's tough for me to schedule them and warn you in advance that they're coming. So this is one that's unscheduled, primarily because I've got Sam Paredes with me. I'll introduce him in just a second. He is my friend and the incredible leader of gun owners of California. I'm very grateful for his work in California and his strong advocacy for the Second Amendment. But as a result, his schedule is a little crazy. And then obviously I don't do, whether you know it or not, I don't do YouTube as a living. This is something I'm passionate about because I'm passionate about the Second Amendment, and I want to help Californians and people in the United States understand how important it is and be a great advocate for it. This is a way for me to do that because since I work for a living, I can't run to rallies and that kind of stuff. I actually have to work to make money and pay the bills like you do probably, and most people do. So this is my way of helping. And as a result, I have a work schedule, and so it's kind of tough to kind of match schedules up once in a while. But Sam and I found a common thread as far as schedule is concerned last night, and that's why we're doing the live stream now. Now, there's a couple other things I want to let you know about. Because this is for lack of a better term, a low-budget show. This is not, I don't have a producer and a sound guy and a video guy and somebody running the live show. I don't have all of that. It's basically me, and me. I'm sitting in front of a computer right now in my little studio in my house, and so I have to run the video switcher, I have to take care of the audio, I need to make sure I'm watching the live streams and some other things. I bring that up only so that you know if I'm looking down at things, it's because I'm setting up the next scene or I'm trying to do that while I'm listening to what Sam is saying. Also, where comments are concerned, I will check them often because I want you to be able to ask Sam questions. So if you want to submit a chat do that, please, and ask a question. Just understand that sometimes I don't see them. I'll kind of scan through them, but I'm doing a million things, and people will accuse me of saying, well, you only respond to the super chats. Well, that's not the case. I'm looking for chats in general. It's just that when you put up a super chat, it makes it really big and in a bright color, so it jumps out at me, and I'll see that one. So if you have a question you really, really want to ask, and I don't see it, you might want to consider doing it in a super chat. I'm not trying to get money out of you, although excuse me, I'll take all the contributions I can get because this comes out of my pocket, so I'm very grateful for the help that I get on Patreon and that kind of stuff. But if you really want it to be seen, it's probably going to have to be a super chat unless I catch it as I'm scrolling through them. So I want to make sure you're aware of that as well. A couple other things real quick before we get to Sam. I want to make sure that you are aware of the fact that you can help GunGuyTV if you'd like to by shopping our Amazon link. We are an Amazon affiliate of sorts. Now, Amazon is not exactly a gun-friendly company by any stretch of the imagination, but if you want to, you can pick their pocket a little bit, and it will benefit GunGuyTV. The money we make from Amazon, we pour right back into GunGuyTV. It actually isn't income for me, so that you know, we spend more money on GunGuyTV than it actually brings in. So anything you want to do there, if you're shopping for stuff and you want to shop Amazon for non-firearms related things for Christmas or whatever, it does help us. It does not cost you a dime. Likewise, I wanted to let you know that Sportsman's Guide has decided to somewhat sponsor GunGuyTV. They actually have become a Patreon patron, and I'm very grateful for Sportsman's Guide doing that. So since they don't send me things to review, I don't mention them a lot. I want to make sure they get a mention once in a while. So if you're shopping for gun stuff or hunting stuff or whatever, check out Sportsman's Guide. It's a great store, and they are very, very helpful, and they're actually helping me, and for which I'm very, very grateful. All right, on to this live stream now. The reason why we're doing this is we're very closely approaching Christmas and 2019, and with 2019 come a lot of changes for California gun owners with laws that have already been passed, and then there's obviously Gavin Newsom, or Newsom, Gruesome Newsom, whatever you want to call the guy. I've been calling him Gavin Newsom forever. He's now going to be governor, Lord help us, and the legislature, my understanding is, in California now has a supermajority among the leftist anti-gun Democrats again, so there's not a lot we can do in the legislature. Then we also have the problems with the nutty Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. We have friendly judges in the state of California, but then everything goes to the nutty ninth. And so there's this whole battle here. I want to find out, what are we facing in California? And I want to find out also what we can do about it, or what the plans are to do to try to fight that battle on an ongoing basis in California. I can think of nobody better qualified to answer those questions than Sam Paredes. And that's why I contacted Sam and asked him if we could work out a schedule to get him on the show. Sam, thank you very much for coming back again. I know you're super busy. I really appreciate you spending the time.
Joel, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about all of these things. And I'm glad that our schedules were able to, work out. Obviously, it was the good Lord thought that it's important for us to talk about this and send this information out for people to understand what's going on, what is being done to them, and what they can do to fight back. So it's always a pleasure to be with you, Joel.
Well, I'm very appreciative. And by the way, if you're watching and you're not a member of Gun Owners of California, I want to encourage you to join. I am a member. I support the organization a lot because Sam has been at this a long time. He's walking the halls of the California legislature lobbying on behalf of gun owners as much as possible in this kooky state and working his tail off, and he could use all of your support. Sam, can you give us kind of an update just legally as to what laws we're facing that have already been passed in California that are going to come into effect in 2019?
Sure. The key ones that are going to come into effect are on July 1st, 2019. The use of non-lead ammunition will be banned. The use of lead ammunition will be all hunting in the state of California. So people are concerned that, does that mean that I can't take my lead ammo to the range, or I can't target shoot in the woods? No, it just means that for all hunting activities, it doesn't matter what kind of hunt. If you shoot at an animal of any kind, it has to be done with non-lead ammunition. You can go into the national forest, take all the ammo you want, all the lead ammunition, set up a target, and shoot to your heart's desire. But if you turn those sights on anything that's alive and you use that same ammunition, you'll be in violation of the law. This is a really, really tough one. And I know that the anti-gunners are just licking their lips over the passage and implementation of this law. There's now a greater move nationwide that is starting to emerge to ban the use of all lead ammunition anywhere in the country. And it isn't that although they say that it's toxic and all of that gobbledygook, that isn't their goal or their purpose. They want to do everything they can to make the use of ammunition and guns more difficult so that fewer people will do that. So, and more expensive for sure. So that's a very concerning bill. Ammunition purchasing laws beginning July 1st in the state of California. You're going to have to go and do a face-to-face transaction if you want to purchase any ammunition with a California certified ammunition vendor. You're going to have to register for it just like you would a gun. Name, address, driver's license, background check will be conducted, and the dealer is going to have to transmit that information to the Department of Justice for them to store in an ammunition purchaser's database. The gun dealers will also be required to keep that information in the stores for a period of time. It will be illegal for anybody to bring, it's already illegal for anybody to bring ammunition from outside the state into the state of California. Now, how this law is going to be implemented, nobody knows. The Department of Justice has not written and issued regulations governing how this is all going to take place. There's a big question about law-abiding citizens that are not residents of the state of California. How are they going to buy ammunition? There was some thought that people would be able to buy a ammunition purchaser's card for $50, and that would give them, their background check for a certain period of time. Well, that's not part of the law that is being implemented. The Department of Justice has sent out rumors that they're going to be using the automated firearms system as their a database to check to see who has a background check, because if you're on that, a background check has been conducted. The automated firearm system is where your name goes every time you purchase a gun in the state of California. Now, there are tons of people, maybe millions of people in the state of California that own guns that are not registered, and they have not purchased any guns through the registration process since it was implemented. And they are in total legal possession of those guns. They are not on APHIS. Are they going to be able to buy ammunition? We don't know. There's no system in place for them to do that. Residents from outside the state of California, hunters, competitors that are going to come in to compete or to hunt in the state of California, it will be illegal for them to bring ammunition in the state of California, and there will be no mechanism that we know of as to date that will allow them to purchase ammunition in the state of California. The only provision that there's nothing about this that makes sense, but the one good thing is that if you go to a shooting range and you purchase ammunition at the shooting range and you use up all of the ammunition at the shooting range, you do not have to register for the purchase of that ammunition. But if you bring one round off the range, you will be in violation of the law and in violation of the registration requirements with regards to ammunition. This is a very big deal. Basically, most major, even regional, exciting matches that take place in the state of California will be illegal. I mean, you won't be able to hold them because people won't be able to bring their specific ammunition for their specific guns into the state of California in order to compete. So Department of Justice has just, they've had months and months and months and months to write the regulations and issue them. But frankly, I don't think they know how to implement this law. And unfortunately, the legal gun owners of the state of California and the legal residents and visitors who want to purchase ammunition are not going to have an ability to do so. That is a very big deal. Now, if you are a hand loader, none of this applies. Now, that doesn't mean that you can hand load outside the state and bring it in. It has to be hand loaded in the state. There's no registration requirement for projectiles, primers, cases, and powder. So that may be an option for a lot of people to be able to comply without having to go through the government intrusion of registration and background checks for every purchase of ammunition. Joe, what's going to happen when people like you and me who train people to shoot, we shoot quite a bit, we hunt, we target shoot, we train and all of that. All of the purchases that we make are logged in the ammo ammo purchasers database. And some young Department of Justice, rookie comes up and looks and sees, why is Sam Paredes or why is Joel Persinger buying 10 or 20 or 30 or 50,000 rounds of ammunition in a year? What are they doing with all of that ammunition? Okay. Does that mean?
And I'm sorry, I moved my mic to. I was writing down some notes. That's one of the questions I had, Sam. Is there's, it seems to me that I'm sitting here with my little sticky pad, writing all kinds of notes because I didn't grab a pad to write them. So I'm scribbling them on. Yeah, I know I had one of those. I think I set it down in the other room, so now I'm scribbling them on a sticky pad. But a couple of things just jumped out to me while you were talking about this, and I apologize for interrupting you. But for example, I mean, talking about the ammo ban, for lack of, not the lead ammo stuff. I have a question about that too. But for example, you said that with the background check, just some clarification. Now we have this whole real ID versus federal limit supply thing. And I know that at some point, like now, you cannot use a federal limit supply driver's license in California to buy a firearm. I found that out. I haven't gotten a new, my driver's license is older, so it doesn't say either, but when I get it renewed, I was informed that I have to get a real ID in order to buy a firearm. Is a real ID going to be required in order to buy ammo?
We assume that it is, since there are no regulations in place that officially tell us what is going to be requirement. We don't know, but we assume that it's going to be very much the same as firearms purchases, that the real ID is going to be required. And you know, the most government intrusion possible is going to be mandated.
I think that's the safe assumption, is how much they're going to make it as challenging, as difficult as possible. My understanding was there are a couple of exceptions or exemptions or whatever. One would be for ammo vendors and like that. But it seemed to me that I read somewhere that if an individual has a combination of a curio and relic FFL license and what they might call a collector's FFL license and a California certificate of eligibility to purchase a firearm, that if you have those two things, you can still use those to order ammunition online and have it shipped to you. Is that accurate?
Anybody who was saying that is accurate, I think is being very premature. The regulations that govern what is allowed and what is not have not been written yet. So people can make that argument. They might have to make that argument in court if they're arrested in some county and for violation of the ammunition laws. In some places, some law enforcement officer might say, okay, that makes sense. Okay, you're good to go. But in some places, there will be people that are arrested.
Well, the reason I asked the question is I know that in looking online for things, I think there are online vendors, who are under the impression that this is the case, because I've seen, and I can't think of one off the top of my head. I don't think it was Lucky Gunner. I think it was something else. But anyway, I remember looking at a couple of online vendors, and then when I was looking at ammo, which of course I can't order and have shipped to me, wouldn't that be nice in that way? But as I'm looking at ammo, they say if you provide them with those two things that they will do it. Now, it just so happens I have a curio and relic FFL, and actually I've discovered now that because of what we do for a living, I kind of have to have a certificate of eligibility. So, I mean, that I have to have both of those things anyway, but I'm hesitant to order the ammo and have it shipped to me precisely because of what you just said. I don't want to be the test dummy that ends up going in court over the thing.
Joel, the fact that you have those two certifications, what we do know is that it's fairly easy for you to get the certified ammunition vendor's certificate, the license to sell ammunition. That way you can have all the ammunition delivered to you, and as long as you shoot it all.
Well, yeah. Well, and we have to do that anyway because we have students, and there's, whenever there's a shortage on ammunition or whatever, we have to stock a certain amount of ammunition because we have security guards that need to qualify twice a year for their concealed carry permits, and we have concealed carry permit holders that have to qualify once every 2 years and so on. And when they can't go to the range or go someplace and buy ammo because there's an ammo shortage like we went through previously, then we have to provide it. So that's the process we're going down, is to get the ammo vendor's license, because as a company, for practical defense systems, we have to. But for the average individual, that's just that's a complete nuisance. I guess my other question would be, you mentioned there's a lot of guns in California that are not registered because they didn't need to be.
Correct.
And then you have folks who moved to California who have no idea that they're supposed to notify California within a specific period of time that they brought firearms into the state. They don't know that. I mean, some of them may know it and just choose not to do it, but I'd be willing to bet you there's a lot of folks that move to California that have no idea, and they just pack up their guns they had in Idaho or whatever, and they bring them with them. They don't know they're supposed to do that, so they have all those guns that aren't registered here. How much of this strikes me immediately that this is an effort to make you can't take the guns away because of Heller and because of the Second Amendment. You can't do it, but you can make it as hard as possible to shoot and have guns that function, because without ammunition you can't function them. That makes sense as to why they're doing this. But also, if I don't have a 30-30 that's registered or that they know about, or I don't have a pistol, a .357 Magnum that they know about, and I start buying 30-30 ammo and .357 Magnum ammo, how much of this is them scrutinizing my purchases for the purpose of discovering whether I might have firearms they don't know about?
Joel, that is absolutely brilliant analysis on the situation that we are in. We don't know the details because they haven't finished the regulations, but we do know that they are creating a system, since, we believe that registration serves only one purpose, eventually giving them a list for confiscation, because as was recently reported by the California Gun Violence Research Center and at UC, wherever, Davis, or that registration has served zero purpose in reducing gun violence in the state of California. There is absolutely no change. And of course, that did not meet their narrative, so they decided to question the data. They said, the data's not good, but the fact of the matter is the registration didn't work. With regards to ammunition, they are setting up a system to be able to identify people who purchase ammunition for guns that are not listed on their APHIS record, which, excuse me, but I don't trust the government not to look into that. Nothing prevents them from looking into that and investigating why is this person buying, 303 British ammo and 257 Roberts and 38 Smith & Wesson Long or 38 Colts or whatever, and they don't have any guns of those calibers in their records. They actually, I don't know that there's anything in the law that prevents them from disallowing the purchases of that ammunition. They can reject the purchase and tell the vendor, you can't sell that ammunition to them. They're not on APHIS, or they don't show any records of owning guns in those calibers. So no.
That's incredibly insane. Let me look real quick at the chats. I haven't 17 things I'm doing at once here. I'm a guy that can do one thing at a time. I don't necessarily do it well, but I can do one thing at a time. Let me look at these real quick, Sam, and see if there's any questions in here that need to be addressed real quick. Lots of highs and thank yous and so on. I'm grateful for that. Let's see. One person is saying that they went to their local gun shop and were told that they had to have a real ID to buy both firearms and ammunition starting in 2019. And yet another person here is saying they went to the local gun shop and the gun shop is telling them, no, they're not going to require them to have either one of those things until 2020. So this is where the confusion starts going all over the place, because the state they don't pass laws that are clear, and then their regulations tend to make them as clear as mud as well. Let's see what else we got here. Start using uranium rounds instead of lead. Okay. Let's see what else have we got here. Certified. Let's see. And then folks pointing out the Supreme Court's doesn't seem to be taking the cases. And you and I talked about this before I wasn't going to mention this on the show, and I told you so, but it is a concern of mine. One person just commented that, while we in California vote to keep the gas tax, which is astounding to me and is a whole different subject that has nothing whatever to do with guns, the people in France are burning the place to the ground because they're taxed to death. And one of the concerns that I have, I really do, and I hate to even bring it up, is I don't. I'm scanning through the rest of these real quick while I'm talking. Forgive me. As you know, I'm not a person who promotes violence or promotes that kind of behavior. I don't think it's. To be honest with you, I don't think we're there. And I hope we never get there. But the frustration level with California gun owners is so astronomically high. And I would say the frustration level with Californians in general is incredibly high, particularly when you look at the taxes that we pay and the cost of living here, and knowing that the Democrats have a supermajority now, and that Gavin Newsom is a tax guy. And then you've got the gun laws, which are insane. And then you have the ballot harvesting deal, where when they don't like who won because it was not somebody that they backed, they go and harvest more ballots, which is nothing more than a license to have somebody go out and create ballots or find people to produce ballots at the last minute, past the deadline, and then bring all the ballots in so that we can shove all those conservatives out and bring in our left-leaning friends. And that's what happened to California. It's all over the news. What happened to California with a lot of the GOP victors who had actually won the election were then lost the election because they brought in all these extra votes that they'd harvested. I mean, even in Maine, I was looking at a news story today where they have now a ranking system, the new rank voting system, which has been used for the first time, which has got to be like the harvesting thing, unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. And now they've got a GOP guy that won the election who's now being declared the loser because of the ranking system. They've installed a left-leaning Democrat as the winner. It's extraordinarily frustrating in the state of California, and my concern is that we're going to have Californians who they finally are done. They're not going to put up with it anymore. And this kind of stuff that is happening in France has a real potential of happening here. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh, lots of thoughts. Number one, people need to understand that California is going into a more difficult place than we even are in now. I mean, that's such terrible English. We're going down the tubes, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. The fact of the matter is, we have a lot of gun owners out there, people who own guns, who abide by the law, who have not been engaged, and even under these circumstances have chosen not to be engaged in the political process. And because of that, they've lost a lot of their rights. There are some people that are saying, well, I'm leaving California. Great. If you've been here and you've been a part of the fight and you're done, I appreciate that and I understand that. And if you're going to go someplace else, to Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, someplace like that, that's a beautiful thing. And thank you for the time that you were here if you were engaged in the fight. But I'm telling you, things are changing even in some of these states. Nevada, right next door, their legislature just went basically Democrat, and they elected a Democrat anti-gun governor who is going to push gun control agenda items in the state of Nevada, the silver state. You would think that would be a freedom state, and it no longer is. I was just in Texas this last weekend, and the conservatives, the pro-constitutionalists, are working very hard to organize to prevent their state from going in the direction that we have gone here in California, Nevada, and Colorado. They're working very hard, and they're facing a humongous challenge. Now, Joel, I'm with you. We have an opportunity, an obligation, a responsibility to be involved in the protection of our rights. We have to learn how to be engaged and then do what needs to be done to be effective in our political arena. This is the system that our founding fathers gave us when they created this amazing country. And shame on us if we don't take the time and pick up the mantle to be effective in protecting that. We don't have the opportunity or the ability, the right to rebel in an armed manner until we have no longer the ability to vote. Once they have taken away our ability to vote, then we are slaves, then we have tyranny. And even now, when the left is creating these horrible ballot harvesting procedures and stuff like that, we can still organize. We still have the ability to fight back and to work within the letter of the law to push these people back and to take our rights back. Anybody who wants to skip all that hard work that it will take for us to be successful, all that time and dedication and sacrifice in protection of our rights, and jump straight to guns, shame on you. That is not what our founding fathers established when they gave us this country, and they gave us the responsibility to take care of it and to pass it on to generations in the future. So I agree with you that armed violence is something that the leftists do, the communists do, the socialists do. They have a long history of doing this worldwide, and we are not like that. We are
and
the law.
To add to that, we've seen that in the Antifa movement here in the United States. I think we see it too in the fact that even when you have conservative folks who are trying to protest, which is certainly applicable. Nonviolent protests are applicable. I think going to violence doesn't help us any. But certainly protesting and marching and that kind of stuff is certainly applicable. And then you see folks do that, and the next thing you know, some left-leaning group comes in and co-ops that whole movement and tries to make it their own. I think that's what you're seeing right now in France. This was all about taxes and over-regulation, and now it's been co-opted by these crazy left groups, which are trying to take that and make it their own and push the other direction. So I think it's not necessarily productive, and in some cases, frankly, it's counterproductive. The difficulty now is, particularly in California, and this is where, I've said this before. You know what? If you're tired of this kind of stuff and you move, that's good for you. I congratulate you on crawling under the razor wire, past the guard towers and the spotlights, and escaping this nutty state. At the same time, if we don't fight it here, you have to fight the battle where it is. If we don't fight it here, then it spreads someplace else. How many times have I said California either affects or infects the rest of the country? And I've heard you say it, Sam.
That's right.
You look at what's happening now with Texas, Nevada, Colorado's already gone down that way. I mean, that's what's happening is these folks are taking advantage of the country a little bit at a time. So what happens now, Ben Shapiro said it in a speech not too long ago. He said what happens is what leftists do is they find a place where conservatives have gone and made a place really nice and beautiful and productive and successful, and they come in and they ruin it. And the conservatives leave, and they go find another place that maybe isn't quite so nice, but they make it nice and productive and successful, and then the leftists go, oh, well, let's go over there, and they go over there and ruin that one. And then pretty soon, and this is what's happening around the country right now.
Mm-hmm.
People ask me, why do you stay in California? Well, I stay for a whole host of reasons. My life is here, my family's here, and so on. But at the same time, I've got to fight the battle where the battle is. So if you are electing to stay in a state that is restrictive, whether it's California or New Jersey or whatever, I applaud you. If you elect to leave, I have no criticism of you either, but I think we have to stop. The people who leave want to criticize the people who stay. So I want to make sure if you're leaving, you understand that some people stay for family reasons or employment reasons or whatever, and some people stay just because they're going to fight the fight where they are. And that's me, and that's Sam. We're going to stay. I don't know about Sam. I assume he's going to stay, but I'm going to stay and fight the fight where I am. I think that's what I've got to do. I do have a question about the lead ammo thing. I want to get back to you real quick before we go any further, and then I'll look at the chat again and see if there's any questions in there. You mentioned if you shoot at anything living, you can't have lead. I'm assuming, but it's never safe to assume in the state. Does that apply to self-defense ammo? I mean, are they so concerned about animals that we don't use lead? But if somebody's coming in your house and you shoot that person, you can't use lead either, or can you give them a case of lead poisoning and that's okay?
Yes, you can give them a severe case of lead poisoning and turn out their lights. This does not apply to the use of ammunition in the act of self-defense.
Sounds like a law written by PETA, which, by the way, in case you don't know, in my little definition of the acronym is People for the Eating of Tasty Animals. But that doesn't make me very popular as a hunter, I don't think. All right. Well, we've talked about some of this stuff. Are there any other laws that are coming that have already passed that we have to worry about in the state of California as of 2019?
Well, beginning next year, because of the passage of AB 2103 by Assemblyman Gloria, there will be a requirement for people to do live shooting when they get their CCWs, and it's going to be standardized. Joel, this drives me absolutely crazy. I testified about this in the legislature. We've had concealed carry weapons laws in the state of California since, I believe it was 1902, over 100 years. And in all of that time, there is not a record of anybody being charged or arrested for not having sufficient training in the use of a firearm in the act of self-defense. There is a perfect record Now, sheriffs in the state of California, they use their own criteria, largely based on their own experience, the uniqueness of their county, the region and territory that they live in, whether it's urban versus rural or wilderness, and they have their own standards, and those standards have worked 100%. But the legislature, this Assemblyman Gloria, who knows nothing about handguns, he quipped that he had some rifle training when he was in junior high school, so he knows all about guns. Never taken a CCW class, never taken any handgun training, and he felt that it was important that people are required to do some shooting because they heard that there are some sheriffs that don't require actual live fire shooting when people apply to get their concealed carry weapons permits. Well, here's the truth. That is actually accurate. There are some sheriffs who don't require it in their standards, but 100% of the instructors who offer concealed weapons permit training classes and all of that take it upon themselves to require shooting because they want to make sure that the people they are certifying know how to shoot. They know how to handle the firearms that they're going to be concealing. And you know what, Joel? They've done a pretty doggone good job because nobody has been in violation or been unwise in the use of a concealed firearm in the state of California ever. So this bill, it's going to require that the first class be a minimum of 8 hours long, and that the shooting requirement will be put into law, and that the sheriffs are going to have to publish their shooting standards for public examination. And let me tell you, that's going to open up a can of worms because you're going to get people who are going to come in, and the leftists, the anti-gunners, are going to say that those shooting standards aren't sufficient for people who are carrying dangerous weapons out in public. They can't. How could you have such low standards and stuff like that? You know, which begs the question because I guarantee there are going to be challenges. There are police agencies throughout the state of California that only require a 70% a passage in order for law enforcement officers to qualify monthly or quarterly in order to carry a firearm. And a 70% standard is what they have. That's a C. And I guarantee there are going to be some legal challenges coming back to fight us on that. So that's CCW's and a hideous law, totally unconstitutional. SB 1100 is a law that's going to make it illegal for any 18 to 21-year-olds, under 21, to purchase a firearm in the state of California. Right now, it is legal for an 18, 19, or 20-year-old to purchase a long gun in the state of California. They're treated like adults. They go through the background checks. They do all of those things in the state of California. There doesn't seem to be any sort of a problem with those people who are legally buying guns with committing crimes, no matter what the age is. Well, the government is saying that they are too irresponsible and will not be allowed to buy guns. Now, here we have a country that recognizes all of these people, men and women, boys and girls that are 17 years and older, as members of the militia, the federal militia. And now the state government is denying federally recognized members of the militia the right to keep and bear arms. I guarantee there's going to be a lawsuit. A lawsuit was filed against a similar law in the state of Florida by the National Rifle Association. We are working with all of our partners right now here in the state of California to challenge this law in the courts as well. But this is clearly unconstitutional. We have young men and women who join the military. We train them and we send them to foreign lands to protect this country. And then when they come back, and many of them come back and they're still under 21 years of age. And then to say that you are not allowed to purchase a firearm to protect yourself in your own home after you've gone out and protected this entire country outside of the borders of the United States, that's crazy. That is unconstitutional. That is every bad thing you can come up with to describe that way of thinking, it is a bad thing. But Joel, you and I know that the left, they're not about crime control. They're not about affecting things that are going to actually reduce gun violence or anything. They're all about gun control and how it affects law-abiding citizens. 400 million guns in America, 40 million guns here in California, and that's where they put their concentration as opposed to doing anything that's going to affect criminals. Two more real quick bills. SB 1200 is a bill by Senator Skinner. It expands the duties of law enforcement when serving gun violence restraining orders. That is still, we don't like it. It's a law that is very rarely used in the state of California. There's no real indication of its effectiveness. I consider the gun violence restraining orders to be a very insincere effort at really dealing with a problem of mental health or people that have been identified as being a danger to themselves or others with guns. And then, of course, Senator Jackson from Santa Barbara, SB 1346, that banned bump stocks in the state of California that were already banned. It was already illegal to own bump stocks in the state. There were none in existence, but she wanted to make them illegaler, so she passed this bill, and it was signed by the governor to declare that the illegal and banned bump stocks in the state of California are illegal and banned again. Massive waste of the legislative process. But those are the things that are affecting gun owners right now. Now, there are responses to everything. There are multiple lawsuits that have been filed on virtually every aspect of gun control in the state of California. We're working with our partners at the National Rifle Association, California Rifle and Pistol Association, Firearms Policy Coalition, all of the groups out there that are actively engaged in the political and legal system to challenge these laws, we're partners with. And we're coordinating. We will be filing the all-important amicus curiae, the friend of the court briefs, to support these lawsuits and to add breadth and depth to the lawsuits. To challenge all of these things. And let me tell you, it's everything. The safe handgun law that limits the handguns that the law-abiding citizens can purchase in the state of California is being challenged. Microstamping is being challenged. There are multiple lawsuits on so-called assault weapons that are challenging the assault weapons laws. They're in various courts in various states of progression through the judicial system. There will be more lawsuits on ammunition. There's still a lawsuit on standard capacity magazines that hold more than 10 rounds because of the efforts of the groups that are all out here fighting to protect your rights. You can still possess those magazines if you legally own them prior to the passage of the assault weapons ban in the state of California. So there's tons going on, and lawful gun owners have an opportunity to dive in. They have a responsibility to be a part of the process.
And I can hear, you know what I can hear in my head, I don't even have to look at the chat to hear it, is I can hear the frustration of California gun owners going, what point are lawsuits when the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals is just going to rule against the NRA, Gun Owners of America, Gun Owners of California, and CRPA at all. And so I guess that's maybe a good segue into some questions I have in that regard. Because
yes.
what I'm seeing here is this is a really long-term battle. Now that the Democrats have Gavin Newsom as governor, who is an ardent leftist, an ardent anti-gunner, and will as rapidly as humanly possible turn California into Venezuela North. And now that the California legislature has a supermajority and can pass any bill they want to, regardless of whatever mediocre opposition the opposition, what little of it is, can actually mount, I'm foreseeing an awful lot of anti-gun laws being passed in the state of California during this term, which frustrates the tar out of anybody who loves the Constitution, but I guess I don't need to go down that path. Here's the thing. I have two questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
One is, how much does let me back up. I think sometimes people don't quite get, I know I didn't until I did a lot of reading, I don't think people quite get how significant the victory that President Trump had by running all around the country all the time in keeping the majority in the Senate really is. Because historically, the party that's in power in the White House oftentimes loses both the House and the Senate. And even if they don't lose both House and Senate in the midterm election, they lose so much that they're now lame duck presidents, because for that following 2 years they can get nothing through either house because they don't have a sufficient majority. The president lost the House, which was fully expected, but not only did he keep the Senate, he extended his majority in the Senate, which arguably is unheard of. And so that's an incredible victory, even though it doesn't look like one. So that being the case, it's a lot easier for Mitch McConnell, the turtle, or whatever you want to call the guy, whether you like him or not. He's done a great job in shoving these judges through. And so I'm curious, how much does that affect our fight in the future? That's one question. And then the other is, should we be frustrated as firearms owners when the Second Amendment cases are not heard by the Supreme Court, when a specific case is not heard by the Supreme Court? Or should we look at that case and try to figure out why? Is there sometimes a strategic reason, for example, why, even though we have a conservative majority in the Supreme Court, why the Supreme Court would not hear a particular Second Amendment case? So if you don't mind, and I can repeat one or the other of those if you need me to along the way. What are your thoughts on those?
I've got those. I see you're Gavin Newsom, and I raise you with one Brett Kavanaugh. And I think
okay.
that's
However, the other day they did not hear. I think earlier this week they turned down a Second Amendment case, which brings up that whole. Now people are saying, "Well, what was the point of Kavanaugh?"
That people. You see that this is what happens when people are not engaged in the process of protecting their rights, and they don't understand everything that's going on, and they come up with a response. Why didn't they take this case? Now we have got solid friends on the United States Supreme Court, people who believe in the Constitution and who believe in the textual, historical, and traditional interpretation of the Second Amendment in particular. They are in a position knowing that they're going to receive thousands of cases that are requested that they're requested to hear, and they're going to accept maybe 100. They are going to do everything they can to make sure that the case they get is the case that they need in order to rule to protect the Constitution.
Just to make sure I understand that, if they get, let's just draw it out here. Let's say the Supreme Court has come before them over a period of a session or two, which would be a year or two, 5 cases, for example, that eventually bubbled up to the level where now they've gone through the court system, which is arguably incredibly slow, and they actually get these submitted to the Supreme Court for possible judgment by them. I don't know I can never say the certiorari or whatever word they say. I don't speak Latin. I speak English and Spanish and cash, okay? So if it's not one of those 3, forget it. But whatever that word is that they say, where they're asking the court to hear it, the Supreme Court is going to then look at that, and then the judges vote as to whether they want to hear that case or not. Here's my understanding. And please let me know if I'm wrong here. My understanding is that sometimes judges will vote against hearing a case because they're afraid that it's going to be ruled in a way that they don't like. Let's say, for example, somebody brings a Second Amendment case and you have folks like Justice Elena Kagan or Sotomayor, who neither one of which want to do anything to strengthen the Second Amendment. And they look at this thing and they say, well, this one would strengthen the Second Amendment. This is a great case for that. And if it comes to the court, then we're probably going to lose, and that's going to go down a political path I don't want to go down. And they're going to vote against that because they don't want that to be there. That's just an example, okay? Now, on the other hand, we have a conservative majority on the court right now, and there might be a Second Amendment case come to the court, and it may be that the entire community of conservatives on the court actually want a Second Amendment case to hear. But when they look at that case, they look at it and find things wrong with it, or there's questionable things in it, which might force them to rule against it because of constitutionality, or if they actually rule in favor of it, it may be problematic down the road. So they might actually vote against hearing it rather than have it go through that process and making bad matters worse, and then wait for a better case. It's kind of like the cop with the radar gun. He's got one guy speeding at 75. He's got another guy speeding at 105. Well, that's a bigger ticket. I'll let the 75 guy go by. Yeah. Is that kind of the thinking of what happens there?
Absolutely. That is definitely one of the things that happens in those hallowed halls of the Supreme Court. We have confidence that that members of the Supreme Court, judges, know that they have to make the right case to bring. It takes 4 judges to accept a case, and then 5 judges to pass a ruling. So the fact that we've got now 5 conservatives, and in the recent past, we haven't had 4 that have accepted a case, because of all of those things. Now, each judge has, clerks or people who work for them and study and do all of the background research on many of these cases in order to present to the justice, the particular judge, and they talk about these things. They evaluate these cases in order to make sure that the ruling that the Supreme Court is ultimately going to make is one of wisdom, of longevity, and is the right thing to do. You're absolutely correct. I know that there are judges who are saying, "No, this case is not ready for prime time. It's going to present some legal arguments that are going to be problematic. We need a case that's going to come up and give us the opportunity to rule finally on maybe not even the issue of the case, but tell the lower courts that from now on, all Second Amendment cases are to be reviewed on the textual, historical, and traditional interpretation of the words in the Second Amendment." That is even more emphatic than strict scrutiny, certainly worlds apart from intermediate scrutiny, and the lowest level of rational basis is basically, you figure out whatever you want just because you want to, if you feel that way on that day, and that's how you're going to rule.
So it seems to me that we should be, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, it seems to me that we should be in really supporting the president right now in the only avenue that he has in order to to affect the court system long term, and that is in getting these justices not just appointed to the Supreme Court, but also to the appellate courts and the lower federal courts, and ramming them right through. We ought to be ringing Mitch McConnell's phone on a regular basis and sending him emails and whatever, and urging him to get these justices appointed as quickly as possible, because strikes me that that's really our only saving grace at the moment, given the fact that we're in this state and we're governed by the nutty Ninth Circuit. I know there are some seats on the Ninth Circuit that he'll get to fill too, but he has to pull them from these nutty states, and so there's only so much he can do with that. It's really going to help us probably with other circuits and with other federal judges within the state and outside of the state. Am I reading that correctly?
Absolutely correct. Some of the cases that we'll be involved in are not coming from California. They're from the Second or the Fifth Circuit Court cases. So everything that you said is accurate. Absolutely everything you said is accurate. President Trump has appointed and had seated more judges than any recent president in recent history, as far as getting them through the process and getting them to the bench. He's done a great job of getting conservative, pro-Constitution judges. That's why the left is crying so loudly, and that's why they want to change the rules to not make it so easy for the Senate to approve judges. But they're the ones who let that horse out of the barn when they used the nuclear option.
Yeah, good old Harry Reid. He did that, and it was not.
So you're absolutely correct. And that doesn't give us the excuse to not be engaged in the other areas of protection of the Second Amendment. That doesn't mean that, well, since we're going to get most of our victories in the courts, we can not concentrate on the legislature. That is absolutely not the case. We cannot go before a judge anywhere in the country and the judge say, well, we have a system of government here that has 3 branches, and you chose not to be engaged in one of the branches that actually develops laws, and now you're coming to us to do your work for you. Forget you. Go pound sand. We're not going to let that happen. We're going to be engaged, even though it's going to be very ugly in the California state legislature against a supermajority of rabid, radical, anti-Constitution across the board, and specifically anti-Second Amendment legislators. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be uncomfortable. But you know what? Oh, man. Sometimes when you come out of that mud hole and you've got dirt and mud and grime all over you, you just feel, man, I just did something, and we're doing something, and we're going to keep fighting. And then in the elections, we cannot give up. We have to go and recruit people who are going to be good candidates, and we got to support them, and we got to figure out what the laws are for us to be able to take advantage to make sure that our people turn out and vote. Because the reason we are where we are is because our people have not organized, have not professionalized, and have not fought back as hard as those people that are in charge right now.
Well, I hear your frustration, and as well as on the other end, because people will send me emails or comments or whatever, and I hear the frustration of gun owners as well, and it is extraordinarily frustrating. It's frustrating for me too, to be honest with you. I'm not, I am a gun owner. I'm a hunter. I own a company that trains people with firearms, and so I'm deeply entrenched in this whole stuff, and it's extremely aggravating and frustrating. I think the message I would send, if I can, and I think I can, so I will, is that
you're doing it.
It's frustrating, but it can't. They can frustrate us, and they can beat us up, but we lose the day we decide that they can defeat us.
Correct.
I'm not. I don't have a defeatist mindset. I never have. I've never backed down from a fight in my life. I'm not going to start today. And so I think at some point we have to sit down and say, where are the battles, and let's fight them where they are, rather than going someplace else because we'll have a temporary respite from it and knowing that it's going to follow us there eventually anyway. Some folks are going to do that, and if they do, they have reasons for that. I'm not in any way being critical of that, but if indeed you are that person and you decide to move, okay, well, good for you. Don't forget your brothers and sisters who are gun owners and constitutional conservatives and people who want to save the country who remain and fight. And that's why I would say, even if you're in a free state, pick one. There's a lot of them. You're in a free state and you don't have this battle going on. You know what? The battle that I'm fighting here, the battle that Sam is fighting here, the battle that gun owners are fighting in California is not just being fought for Californians, it's being fought for you. Because if we don't fight it here, it's going to be in a zip code near you here pretty soon. So, we're seeing that in a lot of other states. So I encourage you to support these efforts. Yes, it's a booger to have to go to the state legislature and argue your butt off on a regular basis, only to be completely ignored and have laws passed that you don't agree with passed anyway. It's a drag to have to spend money and effort on lawsuits, only to have them go to the nutty Ninth Circuit and be thrown out anyway, or to lose the battle there anyway, and then have to spend years and money and time and effort. This stuff is hard. This is not easy. It's not easy for me. It's not easy for Sam. It's not easy for you. And I get it. I do. I get it. But the last thing we can do is start picking on each other. I don't know how many times I've heard people say, the NRA doesn't do anything. The Gun Owners of America doesn't do anything. The Firearms Policy Center or whatever coalition doesn't do it. You know what? They're all doing something. They're spending a lot of money. They're working really hard, and they could use your support. They could use my support. So when I'm listening to Sam essentially getting up on his soapbox and lecturing us all, you know what? I need that, because I need somebody to go, you know what? Wake up, dummy. You got to get involved. You can't sit back and just whine and complain. So if you've been sitting back just whining and complaining, I'm going to say that to you. Wake up, dummy. You got to get involved. You're not a dummy, but wake up and get involved, and start working on it. Do that little piece that you can do. This is my little piece. And maybe this isn't something that you can do, but you can do what you can do. We don't all have to do everything, but if we all chip in somehow and we work as a team, we have a chance of eventually down the road getting this done. Now, I've had a lot of people say to me, yeah, well, I'm 65 years old and I don't have time and I'm going to run out of time. And you know what? I get it. If our founding fathers looked at the founding of this country from the standpoint of what they were going to get out of it, they'd have been fools, because a lot of them were killed. And most of them lost everything they owned, and they were wealthy when they started. I cannot look at my country that way. If the Marines up in Camp Pendleton, north of me, or the sailors out at 32nd Street, just east of me, looked at it from the standpoint of, well, I've joined the military based upon what I'm going to get out of it. They get paid lousy. They get decent benefits, but when they get out of the military, they got basically nothing, and they got to go get a job. And half the time, the training they get doesn't apply to the civilian sector anyway, so they got to start all over again. No, they're serving their country. They're doing it admirably, and I'm proud of them. Well, I'm not a Marine. I'm not a sailor. I'm too old and probably not bold enough or brave enough to be either. So this is my fight, and this is your fight. And we got to stop messing around about it, and we got to stop whining about it, and we got to stop complaining about it, and we better stop doing nothing about it and actually get involved, get up out of the stinking armchair, get away from the video games or TV or whatever we're watching, and get ourselves involved a little bit. Help out with Gun Owners of California. Help out with Gun Owners of America. Help out with National Rifle Association. Help out with... Pick an organization that you are fond of and help them, and stop complaining about the other ones. If we start doing that, I'll be honest with you. You may not know this, but I do. There's a lot more of us than there are of them. We just aren't organized, and they are. And Sam said it about 4 or 5 times. Yep. So I'm just going to... This is my little call to action here. Let's get with it to stop complaining. And I pledge right now to get with it, to stop complaining. I hope you will too. And if I've made you mad, good. Direct it in the right direction. And there you are. That's my little piece. All right, Sam, is there anything else that we need to cover? Because we've been on for about an hour and a half here. And if anybody's still with us, I'll be stunned. In fact, real quick, let me look at the I'm sorry, I got lazy, and I wasn't looking at the chat. So let me look at that, and we'll see if we got somebody who's now angry at me and wanting to throw curse words at me or something like that. And no, so far, no. But let me scroll through them and say, I'm sure I make somebody mad. My son will tell you I have a habit of making people mad sometimes, because I have an opinion. I'm not afraid to state it. And there you are.
That's a beautiful thing, Bill.
Here you go. The NRA doesn't do anything in California. That actually is not true. That actually is not true. People say that because it's common, and people like to say that on the internet. But that is actually so far from false. It just boggles the mind. The NRA spends an enormous, I knew I could get that word, an enormous amount of money in the state of California. In fact, you may not know this. Every dollar donated to the NRA from California is actually spent on the fight in California. Now, the fact is the fight in California is very difficult. So if you expect the NRA to be able to jump up there and win all these battles tomorrow afternoon, or yesterday afternoon, or next Friday, or next Thursday, or next month, or next year, you're deceived, and you're deceiving yourself. It's not going to happen. It's a very long, hard slog. And the NRA is involved in it, very much so, very deeply. They're spending a tremendous amount of time and effort in California. In fact, CRPA has grown in their ability to fight dramatically. And so if you're ragging on the NRA where California is concerned, it's not... Here, let me back up. I'm just going to stop here for a second. Now look at the rest of the chats. And I know I'm preaching. Forgive me. You got me on my soapbox here, Sam. Sorry about that. It's not the NRA's job to save the Second Amendment. It's yours. And it's mine.
Amen.
It's not Gun Owners of California's job to save the Second Amendment in the state of California. It's yours. And it's mine. And we darn well better start doing it. and stop pointing at these other folks and shifting our responsibility to them. I got a shift key on my computer, and but I don't have a blame key. So I can't hit shift and blame everybody else. If the state is going to pot, it's my doing, and I need to work on it. So there you are. I'm tired of people ragging on gun organizations. Knock it off. Let's get with the program and start helping and stop complaining. Now, if I made you mad, good. Get mad, name it in the right way, and start helping. All right, what else we got here? See what happens when you comment on my shows, Sam? All right,
it's
let's see.
It's a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing.
You know, come on. I'm tired of this crap. Let's get this done. Stop screwing around. Stop ragging on each other all the time. Devil Dog, well done, sir. You got a couple of good comments from him. I love our Marines. We're in San Diego County, man. I'm telling you, we're a military town. If you're in San Diego and you don't like the military, you're living in the wrong place.
Absolutely. Home of the Navy SEALs.
Absolutely. Our SEALs are here. Our sailors are here. Our Marines are here. We're proud of each and every one of them. If you're one of them, thank you for your service.
100%.
Grateful for you.
Ditto.
Let's see. I don't see any questions here and I've got a bazillion chats. I apologize if I missed your question and you posted it. Like I said, sometimes the super chats are just easy for me to see. I'm not seeing any. I saw one here from Pete who said, what if you have, for example, back to the ammo law, if you order ammo or you buy ammo for a gun that is not legal to have here. He used the example of 50 BMG ammo. Are you going to be hunted down and arrested because you bought ammo for a gun? Maybe you've got the gun and you own the gun in another state and you're buying the ammo here and you got to go shoot. Is that going to cause a red flag? And I don't know the answer
absolutely. To that. You can guarantee getting a visit by the guys in the Suburbans with the ninja suits and guns that go coming knocking on your door and saying, what are you doing with 50 BMG ammunition? Can we see it? And you're going to be wetting your pants when they come to your door with the lights on and the sirens going, and you have to respond. Hey, don't get cute. Don't push the envelope and break the law, because you're going to force a lot of good organizations to waste precious resources to go and bail your butt out of the fire because you did something stupid. That's not the way to fight. You know, we're going to see a tax against semi-automatic firearms next year. The bill has already been put over the desk. We're going to see an effort to require the Department of Justice and law enforcement agencies to potentially look at your social media posts before you buy guns or ammunition. That's where it's going. That's why if you're not a member of Gun Owners of California at gunownersca.com or NRA or CRPA or Gun Owners of America at gunowners.org, you need to be engaged, or else you're going to have your social media searches searched and investigated by law enforcement agencies. That's where it's going unless we stand up and fight. Gavin Newsom, he's a slick, terrible, politician with no credibility, no morals, who hates us and is going to do everything he can to make life difficult for us, the law-abiding gun owners. We have to fight back. We have to organize. Every organization that's out here fighting for the Second Amendment needs to double or triple in size in order for us to win. So if you're not engaged, we invite you to be engaged.
Well, and I would say don't think that's just a call for money. Yeah, I want to make more money, so send me more money. I've got you scared now, send it to me. That's not what Sam's doing here. These things cost money to do. They do. Just like putting this show together, it costs money to do. I mean, I've got a ton of work to do today. I'm just buried. I'm swamped with work to do today. And what am I doing? I'm sitting here for 2 hours doing this. I don't make any money doing this. I make money running my business, but I'm sitting here doing this because I care about this issue. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just trying to point out that it takes effort and it takes time and it takes money to do this kind of stuff. So we have to do it. You and I, we have to do it. Nobody's going to do it for us. And we got to step up to do that. I'll tell you where it goes wrong. A great example is the stupid gas and car tax thing. So Carl DeMaio, a local talk show dude here in San Diego, and then some other talk show hosts around the state, and John Cox, I think, got involved and spent some money on it and so on, got this initiative on the ballot so that we could stop the car and gas tax. and people killed it. Now, what's interesting about that is I've heard pundits say, I can't believe that Californians voted to keep the car and gas tax. And you would not believe how many people I have mentioned that to who have said, well, I voted no on it. Yeah, but if you vote no, this is the way they write these bills. If you voted no on it, it was to keep the car and gas tax.
Correct.
If you voted yes on it, it was to repeal the car and gas tax. And the way that you determined whether you wanted to vote yes or no was not because somebody in some ad said yes or no. It's because you picked up the stinking ballot book and read the stupid thing. And I don't know how many people I've met who, if they had just read the book, we wouldn't have a car and gas tax. It would have been repealed. Mm-hmm. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes focus, and it takes a willingness to get it done. And that, as gun owners, is what we have lacked in this state for a very long time. Now, if you're not that person, if you're the person who's engaged and doing the things, please don't take this as if it's pointed towards you. It's not. And if you're not that person, you're the person who hasn't been engaged forever, take it as a constructive criticism, because that's what it is. Because I love you a ton, I really do, and I'm grateful for your focus on the Constitution. I'm grateful for the fact that you care about the Constitution and care about the country and care about our rights. But we gotta put some other things that we're doing aside, and focus on the issue enough to do the studying we need to and get involved the way we need to in order for it to change. Because if we don't, it won't. And I can't do it. Sam can't do it. The people at CRPA can't do it. NRA can't do it. GOA can't do it. Firearms Policy Coalition can't do it. CalGuns can't do it. We can't do it unless we all get together. Otherwise, it's just a few people fighting the battle for you while you sit back on your butt and do nothing. Okay, that's got to stop. That's got to stop. It's got to stop now. Otherwise, you're right. The people who post on my channel all the time, California is lost, California is this, the country's lost, the United States is lost. Well, guess what? If we all sit on our fanny and do nothing, they're absolutely right. Welcome to Venezuela North, because that's what it's going to be. Sam, is there anything else? I'm sorry, I got preachy here, and I apologize for that. I don't like to do that on the show, but I think sometimes it needs to be said, so I said it. Is there anything else we need to be prepared for next year? Because if not, we probably run ourselves out of time, and if there's even one person still watching, I will be amazed. This is the longest live stream I've ever done. I actually have, we have a lot of people watching. I'm kind of, if you're still watching, thank you very much. You have no idea how much I appreciate that. You got people in here. Yeah, Newsom was elected with Chinese money and fraud. Well, why wouldn't that surprise me? I don't know. But nevertheless, he's there. Now we got to deal with him. Anyway, is there anything else we should talk about, Sam, that we haven't?
Joel, we've covered the gamut. If people don't get the fact that we have a fight before us here in the state of California, I don't know what it's going to take. We invite people to be engaged. We ask for their help and their participation. Yeah, you can't come to the legislature and testify. They only give us 4 minutes to testify anyway, and 2 minutes per person. But we do that for you. We go out and recruit, identify candidates, and help them run for office. We raise the money and hire the attorneys that write the all-important friend of the court briefs that support the lawsuits. It all takes effort. NRA has spent over $5 million in the last couple of years right here in the state of California. CRPA, FPC, and Gun Owners of California, we spent everything that we raised here in the state of California to protect our rights. And we want to invite you to be a part of that process. What Joel was saying is that we need to decide that liberty it's worth defending liberty by sacrificing some of our time and our attention and our treasure to doing so. As long as we let somebody else do it for us, it's just not going to happen. We've got millions of gun owners in the state of California who need to be engaged, and we're inviting you to do so because it's going to get ugly. So, help us fight ugly with everything you got.
It's going to get uglier. It's
True,
already
true,
ugly, But you got to, at the same time, you got to keep a sense of humor, because if you don't, this stuff
absolutely.
will actually drive you into the tank. Well, listen,
That's
check
what
out
drives
Gun
the
Owners.
left crazy. That's what drives the left crazy, because we can laugh and we can smile, and that frustrates them like nuts. So
Well, good. I'm glad I'm frustrating them. The more I frustrate them, the better off I feel. Listen,
absolutely.
thank you very much for watching. Thank you, Sam, for being part of the show. I'm extremely grateful that you took the time again, and I burned up more of your time than I told you I was going to burn up, and Sam has sat here very patiently and let me burn up an hour and 45 minutes roughly of his time, and I'm very, very grateful. Thank you. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for all of your support of GunGuyTV. Please support Gun Owners of California. If you don't like Gun Owners of California, support CRPA. If you don't like CRPA, support Gun Owners of America. If you don't like, whatever, but support the Second Amendment Foundation, because I got to tell you, Alan Gottlieb over there is awesome. He does some great work. Find organizations that you want to support, get involved, and start doing that, and then make sure that you're helping out the rest of us, and let's encourage one another daily, as long as it's called today. That's what the Bible says, and it's great advice, and maybe we can actually help each other to win and help each other to deal with the losses when they come. We've lost battles, but we haven't lost a war. Let's hang in there and keep on fighting it. Thank you again for watching and for putting up with the unscheduled live stream. I really appreciate it. This will appear on all of the other platforms that I put things on, Vimeo and the like. It takes a while for YouTube to actually process this so that I can do anything with it. So it'll probably take 2 or 3 hours, and I'll start posting it in the other places. In any case, I hope you have a great week. Have a very Merry Christmas. I do have some videos coming out between now and then, but just in case I don't get to tell you that, have a great Christmas. Thank you again for all of your support, and please be safe.